Hey, good afternoon. It's February 28th, 2024, and this is your week's Market Minute. I do anticipate we're going to be much longer than a minute this week because this week we are discussing SQRL, or SQRL. They are a emerging gas station and convenience store brand that purports to want to be the Chick-fil-A of gas stations. However, the marketing materials and what they're advertising on their sale-leasebacks and what I'm actually seeing on the ground in person in Jacksonville at multiple locations is not adding up at all. So today I really want to discuss SQRL and maybe make some speculation that I may or may not eat some crow on later as to what I think will happen with these sites going on to the future. So quick overview of SQRL, privately held gas station C-store brand. Like I said earlier, they want to be the Chick-fil-A of C-stores and gas stations. You can see here on their website, they basically their product, their business model is going into older second-generation gas station and convenience store sites, doing renovation, adding extra services, ice cream, fast food. Again, SQRL is pronounced squirrel, but it stands for stewardship, quality, love, and relationships, right? Basically adding this Chick-fil-A style atmosphere, happy employees, ice cream, clean pumps, clean stores, clean bathrooms, right? They specifically say, their squirrel stations are clean, well lit, safe places to fill up or grab food. They take proven locations and make them even better by putting services and offerings at the forefront. Clean parking lots and bathrooms can be expected at every squirrel fuel station. Our operators have decades of experience in the C-store industry, and we bring a friendly smile to each visit, bettering our communities one customer at a time. And they've got locations, right now they're claiming something like 350 locations, plus or minus, in about 14 states. I can really only speak to the ones local to me in Northeast Florida, specifically the ones that I visited in person the last couple of weeks in Jacksonville. I have had a lot of local gas station operators who are my clients who have been asking me about these sites because they've seen them for sale as sale-leasebacks from SQRL, but they were calling me asking me to figure out more because what they were seeing in person was not matching up with the marketing descriptions for the triple net sale-leasebacks. And they also had some concerns just with the general appearance and conduct of the sites, which we're going to dig into more. So bottom line, what SQRL is advertising here is they're, again, the Chick-fil-A of gas stations. You're supposed to be very high-end sites, well lit, clean, recently renovated, clean parking lots. And as we'll find, they're claiming to be gas stations that sell gas. That doesn't seem to be the case at a lot of these. So, bottom line, you may see these all over the place. I'm going to try and protect the innocent here with the brokers at the bottom here. But, this is one of them on University Boulevard in Jacksonville. And this is something I actually discussed with a local gas station operator who has a store right down the street at length. This one, you can tell in many of the marketing materials for the net lease, at very least the cover photo, they are showing what appears to be a fully branded and somewhat renovated station. This was a former 76 station that was a local gas station brand. I think he had like 15 or 2 dozen locations that they recently sold off. But basically what they're doing, and all they've done, it seems, is repaint the canopies and the exterior of the building blue. But otherwise do nothing to the site. The big common theme you're seeing among these sale-leasebacks is the gigantic prices. They're almost all north of $2 million a piece, up to $4 million if they're in a major metro. Also extremely aggressive caps relative to the other C-store and gas stations you might see, especially with these long leases. They're 20-year leases being offered at 7 up to 8.5 caps. This one in particular is almost at $200,000 a year in base rent, and it's going to have the subsequent tax basis that comes with a sale at almost $3 million, right? Additionally, the terms on the leases are pretty aggressive. You have 2% annual bumps. You generally on a 20-year lease might only see 5 or 10% bumps every 5 years. So to have 2% compounding bumps every year on these leases for 20 years, it's going to look great to an investor. But maybe if you're only on the other side of the country and you can't see this site in person, when you come and actually look at this site in person, it gets pretty scary. When I visited there approximately 3 weeks ago, they were not serving gas. All the pumps were down. Additionally, the canopy had actually been recently redone, but it was not Squirrel branded. You can see in this picture, again, the front marketing photo, they photoshopped the Squirrel logo on. In this picture, it just shows the blue canopy. This canopy has actually been completely redone. It's actually a Citgo branded canopy now. The structure itself is still blue, but interestingly enough, when I went inside the C-store itself, there's no inventory. The shelves are about 3/4 empty. It's filthy. There's no employee there. Again, this claim of, nicely stocked shelves, pretty places inside, ice cream, happy Chick-fil-A style employees. I mean, this guy could work at Chick-fil-A. You'd put him in a red Chick-fil-A shirt, he'd look just home. All these people would look just home in a Chick-fil-A if you switched out the shirts. That's not the case here. This is just a standard, somewhat sketchy, scary gas station like you'd see anywhere else in a major metro. The site itself has really good fundamentals, frankly. University Boulevard, this is actually the corner of University and Bayard. This is not a bad site at all. I just don't know if you'd want to acquire it at almost $2.8 million and then have to deal with a vacancy. And that's where we're going here is, if you look at this, you look at through the comp sales, Squirrel's been buying portfolios of these gas stations from local or regional operators, doing basically lipstick renovations. All I've seen at the ones I've visited is they paint them blue, right? They paint them this blue color palette, and they're executing sale leasebacks for millions of dollars in profit. Now, when you go into the marketing on these, they talk about EBITDAR, not EBITDA, right? EBITDAR. You actually have to look that up because I'd never seen EBITDAR before. So that's EBITDA, right? Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. But EBITDAR adds an R on the end, obviously, and that R stands for rent and potentially renovations. I think that they are classifying this as maybe a double R, right? Rent and renovations. Now, Squirrel, depending on when the marketing materials were generated, they're claiming between like 20 and 50 million in EBITDAR. But I think that R is the key one there, right? Just on this location, they're looking at losing $200,000 a year in base rent, plus whatever that tax and insurance and maintenance cost is going to be, right? Close to $250,000 on just one location. And if they're only making $20 million in EBITDAR before they pay that rent, now we go and multiply this by how many sale leasebacks have they done or are they proposing to do across the country. I haven't crunched those numbers yet, but you can see how this gets pretty out of hand pretty quick. Again, every other, and that's just one listing, but every other one we look at, it's very much the same. This is for a portfolio sale. This is in Stark. Stark is very rural to the west of Jacksonville, but it's growing pretty rapidly. At least they didn't Photoshop this one, and they're showing the property as it actually sits. But it's very obvious this is no longer operating. Again, this is how the site looks, right? It's not operating. And frankly, they're proposing almost $140,000 in base rent out of this site right here. You've got two MPDs and maybe 1,000 or 2,000 square foot C-store in a very rural market, and they want to make $140,000 in base rent. This portfolio sale is something like $9 million and 8.5 cap. That would basically put, if you bought this site, your proportionate share would be something like 1/6 is what you bought this site for. I could just tell you no gas station, fundamentally no gas station site, even 1.5 acres, 2,000 square feet on North Temple Avenue. That's the main drag in Stark, but still, it's just not looking. You can also look at these demographics too, right? 26,000 in a 15-minute drive and barely a 60,000 a year household income. That used to be great numbers, but in this inflationary environment, maybe not so much anymore. Again, the fundamentals don't make sense here, frankly, right? A portion 1.6, even with 20-year lease, right? In 20 years, what's this 140 at, right? Bottom line, though, they bought this site for $425. So if they were to execute a sale leaseback, I can see how robbing Peter to pay Paul and doing continual sale leasebacks can make this work in the short term, right? They do enough sale leasebacks a year, they do enough successful transactions, they can afford to kind of run the red on maybe dozens or hundreds of locations as long as they keep the sale leaseback machine going. And maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe this is a bit of a Silicon Valley fake it till you make it, growth at all costs paradigm they're going on. It certainly does kind of fit with, what the website presents, right? This is very much Silicon Valley all over it, right? Some other things that come up in the net lease marketing, they talk about a personal guarantee. Again, the number of that guarantee, it goes, I think, from 120 million. Again, I'd like to see the actual documents behind that and see how ironclad that personal guarantee really is. Because also on many of these, I see changing numbers in the operating entity. Some say there's an 80-unit operating entity, some say 50, some say 150. So I would be very concerned at how they're shielding this liability for the personal guarantor through different operating entities. Again, just a picture of one of the sites where this is the one off of Cassatt Avenue. This is a picture I took in person. So the place is operational. This is not horrible, right? It's actually a very nice C-store relatively, but there's no inventory. And this site, I don't have a picture of the pumps, but this was not serving gas, right? And they basically have, 10 cans of Pringles and 1 rack of chips to sell me? I mean, the entire cooler is empty. They do have these like counter serve food things going, but no one's operating. There was 1 employee here when I went in, and I actually tried to open up the door. One of the doors was locked. I didn't try the other one, evidently, and the employee came out and tried to, beg me to come in, and I had to ask her, is this open? Because you're not serving gas, and you have like 4 gummy bears and some chips. And she did laugh and say, she was open. Again, I'll note also that she was not in the squirrel. I think they have these branded squirrel polos, right? None of that. There's none of this as well. Again, the place was completely unbranded, right? It was painted blue, but there was no squirrel anywhere. Actually, funnily enough, when they sold that station as a net lease, this was the marketing photo they used. That's not the property at all. It's not it didn't even have the non-representative photo that you sometimes see on net leases, right? They're just using a stock photo of a Dunkin' or a Walgreens, or at least put non-representative photo. They used that one on the listing without that disclaimer. So again, another one. This one is on San Jose Boulevard. This is recent. This is from February 2023. Google Street View. This is what the property looks like. This has already been sold as a sale leaseback from Squirrel, 20-year sale leaseback, and it is very obviously not a Squirrel. As I dug deeper into this, right, you just keep on finding more and more. Here's a underwriting video on Squirrel from some other brokers I found a couple months ago. They posted this 7 months ago, and almost a year ago now, over a year ago. And they've actually brought up some of my concerns in this. They talk about the EBITDA, underwriting single at least Winston Park. It's actually really good, 30 minutes. But they brought up some of my concerns, the EBITDA, the number of locations. But this is from 3 weeks ago, a comment from an employee saying, company with massive lawsuits, 10 million plus. In the grand scheme of things, 10 million is not great. But he mentioned these layoffs, 90% of employees in management. And this is where the rabbit hole gets really deep. So this was an article published about 2 weeks ago. So Squirrel continues layoff as it pivots operating strategy. And so company CEO said Thursday it terminated more than 100 employees over the past month as it shifts to an owner-operated store model. This is very important because this is relatively recent this year. Their claim that they're now shifting they're selling off the business assets, the businesses of the gas station C-stores to local owner-operators, and then just retaining the real estate or retaining the rights to the real estate or the leaseholds, I suppose. But yeah, so Squirrel Holdings has laid off more than 100 full and part-time employees since the beginning of January. Founder and CEO Blake Smith said in an interview Thursday. Layoffs come as Squirrel transitions its business to an owner-operator model, meaning its store managers now have a vested interest in the locations they run. That means those managers control their store staff and payroll like a franchisee, which is the foremost reason for the layoffs, Smith noted. Now, this is something I've been hearing for months from locals in Jacksonville, again, local gas station operators. They've told me that, this supposed Squirrel on such and such intersection, it's not actually run when they talk with the managers. It's not actually run by Squirrel Corporate. They told me there's a local gentleman who has just bought the business from Squirrel and is operating the location. And that would actually maybe jive with what we're seeing on the ground here, right? Why there's these supposed renovations aren't happening, why they're not serving gas, why there's no inventory. It's very possible that the stores were sold off to local operators, the businesses of the stores, right? Not the real estate. And maybe these guys are lacking capital, or maybe they're just struggling to pay this almost $250,000 in rent a year on the sale leasebacks, right? And SQRL has maybe pocketed the profit from these sale leasebacks because they're profiting on every single one of these, right? If you buy a gas station or portfolio sale for $800,000 a piece and then sell them off at 2 or 3 or 4 mil as a sale leaseback, you're making a good penny there even after transaction costs. They're definitely not spending that money on the renovations. So again, they kind of repeat there. We want to be the Chick-fil-A. They're trying to spin this as this is what Chick-fil-A does, right? We have local franchisees that actually operate the stores. We're just the parent company. Again, there was another deal where they just acquired another 210 stores from Blue Owl Capital. Again, it just appears to me that this is maybe a house of cards that's fueled by, the cash from sale leasebacks, but eventually that cash runs out. And many of these sites, again, I'm going to use this site in Stark as the example. If SQRL has if you bought this site and SQRL were to have a major default event, you are into this site for $1.6 million. They bought it in 2023 for $425,000. That was probably overpaying for this site, vacant. 1.5 acres, maybe there's some scrape and redev here, but not in Stark. Stark is still very, very rural. I mean, you can tell by these demographics, right? Again, 15-minute drive. That 15-minute drive is all highway. That's a very large area, right? That's why they're using drive time and not radius, because it would be much, much smaller if it was actually a mile radius. If you buy one of these sites, you're definitely in a hole, right? At least you buy a net lease Starbucks, you've still got a great building and a great site at the end of the day. But I couldn't tell you what you're going to do if you have a default event and you bought one of these sites. Anyway, I would love to be wrong or have missed something on this. So if anyone has any feedback on this, maybe there's something I'm wrong. I have no clue what I'm doing here. No clue what I'm talking about, but this is not what Chick-fil-A does. It's not the same operating model. If this would be tantamount to saying that if they're just random chicken restaurants all over major cities that were painted red but were not branded as Chick-fil-A's, and the chicken sandwiches were completely different. Actually, they didn't even sell chicken sandwiches, right? That's the thing, is that these are gas stations that don't have gas available. Not a single of the gas stations that I went to in Jacksonville had gas, right? So this would be like a Chick-fil-A that didn't sell chicken sandwiches, and the waffle fries were different every single place you go. Some didn't have waffle fries, some of them only had the lemonade, and none of the employees were happy, helpful, and cheerful. There's only one employee, right? And he's not happy, helpful, cheerful, or not in the cute little Chick-fil-A polo, right? Anyway, I'd love to be wrong on this. Like I said previously, please, if you have any inside track on this, give me a shout out, because I'd be interested in maybe seeing this be a success story. But I'm really projecting that in 2 to 3 years we're going to see a default event, and these sites will come back to market, and the buyers of them that have bought them, and again, quite a few of them have sold in Jacksonville the last couple of years, last year or two, they're going to have significant hits. I don't know how you can replace $250,000, $300,000, $350,000 in rent at a gas station when they are not dispensing gas. Anyway, any questions, concerns, comments, go ahead and put them down in the comment section below. Like, subscribe if you want to hear more of this. And again, if I'm missing something, if I am mistaken on something, again, please put it down in the comments or reach out directly. Again, Zach Lemke, Market Force Commercial Real Estate, St. Augustine, Florida. And thanks for listening to me today.